Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for being here. So today I want to continue on what we were building up the past 2 weeks, which is a conversation about emotional intelligence, social intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and how that get connected to and of course, all of these three things are connected to our ability to listen, to truly listen, and querying ourselves to try to evaluate whatever feelings that we're having and the degree to which by the querying and waiting for answer, the kind of information, it's like a canvassing of information to try to figure out the trauma, the resistance that may exist within us, and how do we remove them. They are deep, deep secrets. They are fracturing. They are brokenness that are deep inside of us. As I said, I'm going to remind you again, the human psyche is the most breakable system that exists, but it is also the most self-repairing, okay? And therefore, we should spend our time as we begin to discover this brokenness, as we query, we're going to circle Jericho. So initially, whatever piece of information that may exist in there, we're not going to be able to access it by direct frontal penetration. So we got to circle it. That's why the query takes, and then the Dantian takes days and days of going around the issue, thinking about it, figuring out, and constantly asking, what am I feeling? What kind of feeling is it? Is it one feeling? Have I ever felt this way? And waiting each time for your inner intelligence to tell you what the answer is. Because your body knows the truth, okay? And that information eventually will yield results. You will get the information, and you will discover a false axis, a false belief, and a need, an emotional need, because the fracture, when it occurs, whether it's this past life, as it is related to karma, or in this lifetime, it is typically because an event or something is happening, and it causes you to react to have a need that's not being met, whether it is because you didn't have loving, supporting parents, whether it is because your boss or the people around you were not giving you equal pay, or whatever the situation may have been, that may have been connected to your karma, or in whatever way it shows up. You need to let that inner intelligence tell you there was a need here. I believe incorrectly. I tried to survive because the need was not being met. So I created a bridge or a kind of fake thing to try to fulfill the need. It's incorrect, but I try to basically use tape and glue to try to fix it. And what I need to do now that I know this, I'm going to ask Spirit to show me what is the ascended and correct way for that need to be met. And now, going forward, I need to work on my spiritual psychology, that I don't respond from that brokenness, from that false axis, and then I find the vertical axis, and that I keep reminding myself to do this on a daily basis. Every time the need shows up, am I responding from this, or am I responding from the vertical axis? The tilted axis or the vertical axis. So as you do this over time, it will begin to yield, to heal you, to give you, to repair, to provide you with an expansion and ease that you probably have not felt in some instances in multiple lifetimes. And your psyche, therefore, will begin to, instead of being fragmented, will begin to repair and will begin to join together. And as such, you're going to be energetically very whole. And as this wholeness gets created, it will also accelerate the removal of your karma. I talked about also last week the fact that don't allow, particularly now with the planet and all the things that are going around, don't overstimulate yourself. Meaning by that, don't expose yourself so that more and more karma can come in at faster and faster rate. This is going to be very difficult for you to manage. So you need to, I'm suggesting to, I'm doing it myself, remain in your own nest, allow yourself to venture out and socialize in limited fashion. Don't expose your, because there's so many conspiracy theories, so many things that are happening out there that are so exaggerated and so big that they will trigger karmic things to come in. And when too many of them coming too fast, it will cause you to basically purge too quickly. It will cause, it's like a detox that's happening too fast. And when the karma is coming too fast, it will cause tremendous amount of pain and discomfort. So I'm suggesting slow down the pace. It's that we all have to burn through the karma. It's not so much burning. I don't like that term. We have to repair and correct, because that's the right word. Karma is not us being a victim. It's not us being sinful and being punished for sin. Karma is about repair and correction. And of course, there's good karma as well. When you have good karma, benefit, you seem to be lucky, you seem to have the Midas touch, everything you touch, magic happens. That's good karma, okay? So the idea is to repair what may have been an incorrect way of dealing with something, a relationship with somebody else, or a wrong that you may have done in the past, because none of us were innocent. And again, the one thing with karma that people don't want to admit is that whatever you're going through, there was a 50%. There's a reason. If you have a streak of bad luck and things are happening to you, there's a reason. There's a false belief, and there's a reason why you're experiencing it. There's a seed of responsibility. You're accountable for the negative karma to some degree. So where is your accountability? Where's your part? And that's an adult conversation, and it's about us really seeing ourselves for a whole being, an immense immortal being, a life stream that begun in the bosom of God and that's still returning back to God, descending and still returning back to God. So if you can understand that, you can begin to be much more responsible and admit. Because if you keep narrowing and thinking, I'm innocent, I've never sinned, I know so many people where I've even suggest to them, well, maybe there was a past life somewhere where you're me. I've done nothing to anyone. I've never hurt a fly in my entire life. Well, I can't say that. I'm sorry. Okay, I can't say that. Even in this lifetime, I can't say that I'm sinless. So it's important for us to understand when the karma shows up and when you realize that you're going through karma, and whatever the situation may be, there's an accountability. There's a part of it that you are responsible for, and you need to acknowledge that part, and you need to say, yes, I am responsible. I did this. And that's the part that we have that will allow us as adults to let the sequence of the karma ease for us. Keep low profile. Again, there are too many stimuli that are going on out there with all of the major changes that are happening in the planet. If you let yourself be open to everything that's out there, you're going to purge too quickly, and it's going to be extremely painful. Okay? So make sure that you remain nested, that you expose yourself in as much as possible to as little as possible to allow the karma to come in at a slower pace. And as we are moving to a quickening, the karma will resolve itself, will give you opportunity to resolve itself. And part of the opportunity is the emotional intelligence, the social intelligence, the spiritual intelligence, the querying of self, and the acknowledgement that your higher self, your body, has that inner intelligence and it knows the truth. If you go emotionally to where it hurts, and you query the pain, you will discover the reasons why you are in the discomfort that you're in, and it will help you unbutton that out, and the answers will give you the false access, the false belief, and then you can ask for an appropriate and ascended way to handle this, and you can migrate the center of your consciousness from the false belief into the new belief. All right. What I want to focus tonight on, having said all of this, as an intro and review over the past 3 weeks, what I want to talk about today is that I want to talk about the emerging dimensions. We talked about the listening. I've told you before, that's the only superpower that I have. I listen extremely well. Okay? I had mentioned last week, maybe not for a long time, but for briefly, that one of the practice, aside from the query that I do, is that I sit down and when I do this, I don't have any music. I try to find a quiet place when there's no music, no traffic, and I sit down. I close my eyes. Typically I burn some incense. That's the only thing that I do. Maybe if I have a candle, I can light a candle at the time as well. And then I simply sit down and I do some deep universal breath. Okay? And typically speaking, when I'm doing the breath, the torsion field gets created around me as well. So first breath from the core of the earth, counter-rotating, moving through me, going all the way up outside of time and space, releasing it, and let the torsion field be created all around me, right? And then once that is done, and no rushing through it. Take your time, because when the first torsion field is created, if you're quiet and you take 2 or 3 more deep breaths in that first torsion field, you will begin to realize all kinds of things. For example, that you will realize, for example, the perimeter. You will understand it in your core, and you will sense how it's moving through your body, but you will understand the perimeter. How wide has this spread? Maybe it's as big as the room. Maybe it's in your neighbor's apartment. Maybe it's the whole building. It doesn't matter. But as you notice all of these things, it's beneficial to you. And you may have flashes of memory. It may be that as the energy is going up, instead of going up, it gets stuck at a certain point, and then you have to take a second breath to move it through. If that is happening, it's because there's a stuck energy there, and it's trying to, the guardian for that dimension or trying to help you move through it. And so as it finally gets created, and this is the new way we're doing the torsion field now, it goes all the way into source. And when it's in source, when the axis of the first torsion field extends, attracting the energy of the second guardian coming down, as it comes down clockwise, the donut, the throat of the donut on top of you opens up and create an empty space. And the second torsion field moves inside of it. The axis drops, now counter-rotating inside of it. And it goes into the core of the planet, and once it gets created, it now, like a Russian doll, is on top of the first one. And so on and so forth until all of the torsion field, all 12 of them are created. It will make a major difference if you understand the core this way. There's a reason for this, and that insight came to me about a month and a half ago. There's a reason for seeing it this way, because it's opening you up in a way that was muddled before for the past, with the renewing the torsion field since 2008. It was muddling it before. Now we're at a point where the rubber is going to meet the road, and you, as my core ascension bodies, my core group, we need to work together. Hands and arms locked together, shoulder to shoulder, to do this work, to move forward and to bring, help bring, guide humanity through this transit. right? So
Sorry, I didn't understand the change in the torsion field creation. Was it the swirling?
no, this was about 3 weeks ago. So what we're doing is that when the torsion field gets created, the first one, before the second one comes down, counter rotating, the opening in the donut, instead of being closed, opens up. And it creates a space. So that when the axis of the second guardian comes in, it falls into the opening.
Mm.
Okay? And it goes to the bottom of your feet, and it creates now, through this opening, another torsion field on top of the first one.
And where is this hole located?
It's the center of the donut.
Center of
Because
donut.
the torsion field is a donut, right?
Yeah.
The center of the donut is typically closed, but it opens up.
Right.
Every
Milton,
time a new torsion field gets created, the center of the donut keeps opening up.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they get nested on top of the top one. And doing it this way, by the time all 12 of them are done, I see all 12 of them counter rotating in different direction. Perfectly. Nothing is muddled anymore.
and
It's
Pierre,
very powerful. Yes, Janice.
oh, I'm so sorry. Milton, I wanted to also just to add another new thing that you brought in. When was whatever 3 weeks ago, that each torsion field is not a single guardian, but a collective of 12,
Yes.
right? So that's the 144.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
Yes, yes. This is the reason why I'm recommending when you do the torsion field in this manner and you sit down for the first, let's say the first one, instead of moving to the next breath, you sit down, you take 2 or 3 breaths in the first torsion field. And if you begin to notice the edges, you will see filaments. And the filaments are rotating around the donut perpetually. But as you sit with the filament, you realize the filament is actually the antecorona of the guardian from the first dimension, which is the 4th dimension, 1 dimension above us. It's the antecorona of 12 beings that are in neutrality in 4D. And they are gifting you temporarily. They're projecting into you the neutrality and the liberation that they know as an act of generosity, love, and kindness.
And then each succeeding guardian collective is the next dimension up till you get to the 15th on the
That's correct.
12th
That's
torsion
correct.
field.
That's correct.
That's really cool.
So as we do this way, if you sit down and you do this, and again, I typically don't have any music. I'm not listening to myself to a tape. I don't have any music. I just burn incense and maybe light a candle. That's it. And or sometimes I'm outside. I'm in the park when I'm doing this. Okay, and I sit down very quietly, and as I breathe in deeply and slowly, after I do this, I don't have an agenda. Once all of 12 of them are created, I don't have an agenda. I'm just enjoying the expansion, the grace, and the awe of being connected directly to God. I want to qualify what I'm saying very carefully. So 12 torsion field, 12 dimension above us, from 4 dimension all the way to 15. So they are all on top of you. If you are not neutral, because you're the 13, think of each dimension and each donut as a sacred bead in a jewel. Okay? A bead with an opening inside of it. They're all on top of you. You are the 13th bead. You and I are members of the Guardian Alliance of Light in the 3rd dimension in training. This is why you need to remove your repair and correct your negative karma. Because if you really become completely neutral, What's gonna happen after a while when you do the torsion field and you are expanded, because each one you do, you get bigger, it gets bigger, the perimeter, all of a sudden, you know, I can sit in my apartment and do this, and my entire field is all the way out past JFK. I'm all the way upstate in Agaville. My whole body is so expanded, and because it becomes so big, after a while, you have or at least I do, I have the impression, and this is not my word, these are words that I have channeled, and I'm beginning to understand what it means. When they talk about in the channeling, standing in spiritual rectitude and verticality. I'm so vertical, my axis is so aligned that I am in that rectitude and verticality. And as I begin to listen, I don't have an agenda. I allow spirit or whatever wants to show up for me to show up. And sometimes things, in other words, because you're so open and so neutral. By the way, the other thing I want to add today, the energy of the torsion field is 0-point energy. It's scalar wave. And scalar wave travel faster than light. Listen carefully to what I'm telling you. It's scalar wave energy, and scalar wave energy travel faster than light. So as I sit with it, there are times where details or answers to question I didn't even know I had come to me. I don't have an agenda. I'm just sitting down and I am listening. After I do the 12 one, I'm listening to everything that's happening in my body and in the field. I don't have an agenda. I'm just listening. I'm exercising what is my strength, which is to listen. And as I sit like this and I'm listening, sometimes I discover things that are internal to me. Sometimes this is the way future thing shows up for me. When I channel the Galactic Region Council and they bring information, or when I get vision, sometimes the vision with my students, things are happening in your life that I have no clue are going on, except when I go into that state, all of a sudden, your issues just show up out of nowhere. And then I call you when I'm done to give you advice and tell you X, Y, Z, and then you're like, how did you know this thing is happening in my life right now? That's how come I know. I don't go seek it. I'm in 0-point. I have no agenda. I'm just sitting, enjoying the landscape, enjoying the expansion. Any questions, any comments so far?
Yeah, last week you were talking about the karmic board, and in the meditation, you brought in the karmic board to assist us in discovering those things that remain perhaps possibly hidden or that we were unable to identify. It sounds like the guardians are also doing the same thing, but the karmic board is a part of the process that impacted me very strongly, as it brought through something very bizarre and very unusual last week that I mentioned at the end of the class. And what I discovered is that it was a karmic entanglement with my unborn twin sister. And I had no emotion, no awareness of it, and nobody probably ever knew about her existence. But because I was growing fast and she was not, I took over the space and she did not survive.
Mm.
Isn't that, I mean, that hope, but the karmic board would have known to advise me of this karmic entanglement. I certainly wouldn't have guessed it. And I had nothing in my body to indicate a point of creation of or holding of this episode of life.
Mm. Oh, Janice. Oh my God. My heart is, I don't know what to say, how to feel. I'm so overwhelmed by emotions and feelings right now. I don't know how to respond to this. I feel I feel so like it's beyond blessed. I don't know what to say. That the Karmic board was able to bring this to your consciousness. This awareness that did your parent know this?
No, I don't think anybody did. Nobody ever talked about it. So
Yeah.
it's probably one of those pregnancies that apparently quite frequent
Yeah.
when twin fetuses are present, only one.
One survived and it overtakes the other one. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I want to thank you for that wonderful experience, and also to say I want to get to know more of the Karmic board because I'm really grateful for that.
Yes, yes, yes. I don't know what to say. I don't have words, and that's very rare for me. I really don't. I have tears in my eyes, and I don't know what to say.
Well,
And this is at the root of the very karmic thing that you're facing right now. Wow, wow. That's all I can say. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a remarkable process that you have a remarkable tool that you have access to, that you're teaching us. So along with the guardians, I want to make sure that I'm always including the Karmic board in this process.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, you call the Karmic board when there's a real crisis. You don't call them for everyday little things. You know, there are people who tend to abuse their role because they are so busy, because they are the lens that administer the proper balance of giving and receiving energy, right? And that
Can you just call them?
yeah, you call them at the end of the meditation. You ask them for their presence to help you resolve
Which meditation?
the meditation we did last week. We're gonna do it again today. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you when we're done with the tomorrow when I send them. I'll send the meditation to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
So the thing with them is that they are very beneficial, extremely beneficial, but you don't want to abuse their presence. You know, there are people, everything that they have, they call everything that there is, you know, and they don't make any effort. I know this is not us, because all of you work very hard. And I'm very lucky and fortunate to have you shoulder to shoulder with me, because you're doing the real work. There's no question in my mind. Okay. So and as we're doing this, going back to the guardian and what the guardians are doing, again, 12 breath. Once it's all done, what it was, the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe. Once it's all done, what I do is that I basically remain in silence and in stillness. I don't have an agenda. I'm just letting, because we're all trying to manage and control everything. Basically, I surrender everything to God, and I'm letting God take over. You know that old thing that Christians are saying all the time, Jesus, you got the wheel. Well, give Jesus the wheel. Let God take over. And the benefit there are so many benefits. I'm going to try to enumerate a few of them for you as it relates to me. One of the things that happen if I do this correctly, and it typically doesn't happen initially on the first day I'm doing this, maybe if I'm doing this every day for 7 days or for a month or for however long, it's going to happen kind of like, let's say on the 5th day or 6th day of doing this, all of a sudden, as I'm doing this, all of a sudden I go blank. It will appear either initially that you pass out. You don't know where you went. All of a sudden you go blank, and then you go back to yourself. Wait a minute, what just happened? I just went somewhere. What happened is that your ego, what in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is called your unconscious tendencies, surrender so much into God into infinity times infinity, that your ego disappear for a moment. And infinity times infinity took over. Over time of you doing the torsion field in the Usunian way and doing the work in that manner, what's going to happen is that you will suddenly begin to realize that instead of going blank into another place, you actually go into a white space, an immense volume. And I know some of you may have gone there before. I'm trying to give you the way to do this all the time. An immense volume where when you get into that space, it's very disorienting because there is no forward, no backward, no sideways, no up or down. It's just an immense white luminosity and nothing else. And you being aware that you're standing in that vastness, or you exist in that vastness. It's disorienting. The qualities of that vastness is no thought, zero thought, no thought. Again, if you're really going after the torsion field and you're listening to yourself, and you're listening, initially you may hear things about friends, family, or internal stuff that are not working out for you, or advice, answer to question that you didn't know you even had. Past that, when you surrender everything, you're going to go into the white space. Everybody that I know in Tibetan Buddhism, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they talk about that space as being dharmata. This is the space you go to when you transition. It's the bardo before death. When you transition and you go to that, that's the same white space. No thought whatsoever. There is zero burden. Zero. There is no attachment. Zero whatsoever. And the other thing that happens in there as well, you're at rest, complete rest. It's silent, no thought, stillness, and rest. Those are the qualities I've been able to identify so far. Because at that moment, that entire luminosity, that immensity that you see, it's your actual illumined body. You're looking at yourself. Listen carefully to what I'm saying to you. Many of us, including me initially, thought it was God. I'm in the throne room of God. I'm telling you that the luminosity that you're experiencing at that moment, you're looking at yourself, as they said in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the essence of your being. You're seeing yourself the way you really are. And they call it dharmata. Now I'm still having a problem identifying myself completely with it because it's extremely disorienting because the five senses that we have, we cannot navigate that space with the five senses because it's completely different. It's not attached to any, because the way you get into that space, another way I get to that space as well, sometimes I do this breath control and I keep repeating all the time. That's a different way. Instead of doing the torsion field, I release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. And I keep doing deep breath and repeating this over and over again, silently to myself. And at some point, boom, I'm in the white space. Now, time and space operate differently in there. Because what often happened to me is that as I'm in that space, I think I'm there for a half hour. When I snap out, when I come back out, Then I look at the clock, it's 2.5 hours later. Or 3 hours later. It operates completely differently. And why would we want to do this and go into that volume in that space? It's very simple. If you are charged, meaning if you have attachment to a certain narrative, let's say you're worried about what's happening in the world, whether the climate change or how to repair the damage or political, social stuff, or a war, what's going on with the future, etc. All these things that are extremely important topic, particularly war for now, which is a great danger for the planet. With all of the conflict and people getting shot, mass shooting happening, not just here, but everywhere. Today, I just heard some sort of Iran-backed stuff happening in a base in Jordan. American 35 people wounded, so many of them dead, etc. So all these things are happening. So there is enough agitation in the ether of the planet to cause all of us to have certain kind of attachment to outcome. Okay? And the reason I keep saying all the time, I release all attachments, fears that I have, and control. And when I do this, when I'm quietly doing the deep breath, I release all attachment. I try to sense in my body by listening to myself where I have these attachments. Fears, where are the fears? And control. What am I trying to control? What agenda? What am I so attached to? What vision of the future am I so attached to that I want it to go in that direction only? And I release all of them. And I surrender myself into the great emptiness and luminosity, which is the white space. I release all of it. And as I keep doing this, I repeat this over and over again. Very often, I just go into that space. Why am I doing this? Because for you to become the Buddha and become illumined, you need to have no attachments. You can have preferences, but you cannot have attachments. So as I do this, I'm going to get to a point where all of a sudden I will experience, and again, this has to do with our vision of the future. Because if you are and have an attachment or is more than a strong preference, an actual attachment, and you're trying to control a narrative, and you want, let's say, for example, things in the world to go in a very specific direction. No war, for example. And because of this, the vision, because the future is not, it's not one thing that's in the future horizon. There are multiple, endless possibilities of possible futures that are in front of us. But if you have a very specific attachment to something, the vision you're going to perceive will be limited to the attachment that you have. You will see only one future. But if you practice neutrality enough and scalar energy, 0-point energy enough, and you're non-attached to so many things, what's going to happen, and I remember the first time it happened, it was with clients. I'm again, because I do the Ho'oponopono before a client comes in a lot, and when the client arrives and they're coming in, I'm counseling them, they're saying something, and as they're saying something, I remember the first time it happened, it was like a fan that opened up in front of me. There were 4 different possible answers to what this client was telling me about, the story they were telling me. There were 4 different responses, all of them equally valid, that showed up simultaneously. And then the fan closed, and then 2 of them remained. And I knew those are the 2 that I need to address. The other possibilities that are in the future horizon, are not, because it's all potential for manifestation, the potentials were not high enough for me to mention. They are not likely to happen. So as you listen and listen, like Kuan Yin, who never set out to actually become the Bodhisattva of compassion, when she was in Fragrant Mountain, she went in there to listen because her father was so abusive to her, tried to kill her so many times, and did so many horrible things to her. She was broken. And she went in to listen to herself and to heal her own brokenness. And in the process of her listening to herself, she became so good at it that when she was healed, she was able to balance the karma by seeing not only her own brokenness, but her 50%. What is it in her past life that caused her dad to react like this to her? And more to the point, after going beyond, after she did this and resolved that, she discovered the weakness and the misguidance that exists in her dad, causing her father to have done this to her. In the lifetime that she was in. And because she listened so well, after a while, as she was still isolated by herself in that mountain, she began to hear and see the pain and the suffering of everyone on the planet. Sometimes the person who was a perpetrator can teach us a deep and profound lesson. Because what animates them sometimes exists in some minor ways in us. Then it's not going to be the same, but there is a version of it, a seed of it that still exists in you that you're not seeing. This is adult stuff, because you say this to most people on the planet, they're going to try to, they're going to stop you. They're going to tell you, the person who abused me, I had nothing in common with. And when you understand that, Kuan Yin ended up saving her father's life after all of this. Because one of the story happened to say that when she was on Fragrant Island and doing all of that and discovering all of this, her father at that point was the emperor, was dying and could not be cured. The doctors, imperial doctors could not cure him. And so a monk, kind of like an isolated monk, was visiting the imperial palace and saw him and said to him, well, the only way I can create a cure for you is to get the hands and the eye of a bodhisattva. And the father said, well, no one is going to do this for me, and obviously I'm going to die, so I'm going to resign myself. He said, no. There is a bodhisattva on Fragrant Island. I'm going to go get these items, and I will create a cure for you. And sure enough, the monk returned back to administer the cure. When he was cured, the father bowed down to the monk and said, I want to thank you, bless you. And he said, you don't bless me. You go to Fragrant Island to the bodhisattva and ask and thank the bodhisattva. And when he arrived there, it was Kuan Yin, his daughter, missing an eye and missing an arm. And he fell to the ground, asking for forgiveness. And the story, even, by the way, this is when Kuan Yin was given 3 heads by the first Buddha and also 1,000 arms as a benefit because of what she did. She gained a lot more by doing this. The story even goes so far as saying it wasn't a roving monk, it was Kuan Yin disguised, because Kuan Yin can take the visage and the appearance of a man of anything. an animal, anything, a child, a mother, and anything that it was actually Kuan Yin that went, and she wanted to resolve the karma. She wanted to help her father heal. Because how is karma solved? Forgiveness. When there is karma, particularly when you realize, for example, in the dynamic you have with someone else, that you may, a seed of what they're doing to you exists in you. The first thing you need to do is that you have to forgive yourself for having, in the past, it's not now, in the past, having done or behaved in a manner that's similar to them. You need to forgive yourself. And then you can ask them for forgiveness. Particularly if it appears that they perceive you, they were attacking you because they thought you did something to them in the past life. Any questions, any comments so far?
That's very true, because I had to forgive that psycho who does black magic, remember?
Yes.
Because I know in a past life I've done the same thing to her.
Yep. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Because you have to recognize it. And when you do this, the true healing happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. So when you are in that neutral space where you surrender all of your attachments instead of being triggered, and by the way, the more emotional you are about certain things when you see them, but this is why I'm saying don't let the karma, because there are too many things that are potentially agitating emotionally to us. That's why I'm asking you to isolate yourself. Don't expose yourself to mass media. That's going to trigger you, particularly conspiracy theory, all kinds of things that could activate you and cause you to go militant, to go completely ballistic. And slowly unravel them one by one by one by one. Not all of them at once. Not 3 or 4 things at the same time. Because you will not be able to manage it. You're going to go into a crisis. So now, when these items, because the more emotional you're getting, it's an indication. Because the external is triggering you and you're getting emotional about this, that, you're raising your voice. Sometimes we don't know we're raising our voice. It's other people that have to tell us. You're raising your voice. And we don't know we're agitated. People can tell us by mirroring back to us. And then we begin to realize, wait a minute, am I triggered by this, or is it something else that's bothering me? And I'm camouflaging it by being irritated by everything. So those are the inner conversation that needs to happen when you're in query. And what I can say to you is that when you're neutral enough, you will see a lot more. Why am I bringing this? Because today I want to talk about how do we perceive the incoming higher dimension. We're supposed to go into 5D and beyond. How do we perceive a higher dimension when we are wired to exist in 3D? What I can say to you is that what I'm just describing now, by saying the Ho'oponopono and doing or doing the torsion field in that manner, sitting and basically sitting in stillness and in silence. If you do this and you begin to ask yourself, your higher self, because there's a part of you that already exists in all those higher dimensions. Very similar to when we did when we were doing the cultivation of the virtue, where you take a higher virtue, whether it's gratitude or wisdom or harmony or love or peace, and you ask yourself, if I were at peace, what would peace feel like to me? And then you wait for whatever the feeling is, or something to show up for you. If you are, when you're in that or close to that white space, you don't have to be completely in it. If you were to go in there, if I was in 4D, what would I feel? What would I know? What would I understand? If I was in 5D, what would I feel? What would I know? What would I understand? Teach me the expansion of the 4D. Teach me the expansion of the fifth dimension. For that to happen, you have to release your ego completely. It has to be a complete ego there. In other words, no attachment to anything in this physical world. And then the landscape is going to show up for you. Why am I saying this? Because in order for us to guide humanity at the time of the galactic equator crossing into a higher density, we need, and it's not about a distant thing, because, okay, let me start at the beginning. A point is a zero dimension shape. So if you take a pencil and you do a point, that's a zero dimension. If the point extends into a line, it becomes one dimension. Being that exists in that line can move along the line only. So a dimension is a direction of travel. So in 1D, they move along the line. If you were to be in 2D, having length and width, you will have a plane, like a flat sheet of paper, where beings can move up or down and sideways. We are in 3D. We also have height. We have depth. So we can only move up and down sideways, but we can move across. We have depth. If I were to take, let's go back to 2D for a moment. If I were to take, for example, a sphere, we're all in 3D, so we can see the sphere perfectly because we can travel in terms of direction in the depth axis. If I were to take a small ball and put it on a sheet of paper and imagine what a being in 2D would see, what they would see is just a line. They would not see the entire volume because they are limited. It's just a line. Now, if the ball were to be phased through the sheet and move through it, they would see the line getting narrower because the bottom of the ball is narrower. As you phase it through, it will get wider, and then as it passes through, it will get narrower and disappear altogether. Why am I saying this? Because in a 3D volume, like a cube, the side of the cube, if I were in 4D, the side of the cube would end up being another cube itself. Each side, there are 6 sides to a cube, each side would have another volume attached to it. So in some ways, we can begin, and this is where I'm going to go with you. You and I are not, we don't exist just in 3D. What we are seeing of ourselves and how we perceive ourselves is like the beings that are in 2D that sees the ball and are understanding the ball to be just a line, in a small line in the 2D plane. Our fourth dimensional self, what we're seeing ourselves as in 2D is nothing more than a line or a small reflection of our actually 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-dimensional self. We're seeing a tiny reflection of who we really are. Did I lose everybody? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say?
Question.
Say that
As
again?
you talk, I say question.
Yes.
As you're talking about this and the dimension and the line and what's going on each side of the line, I had a flash of the Jacob ladder
Mhm,
and also of a DNA system.
mhm.
Is this related to all that?
Well, yeah, it might be related to it, but I don't know in what way. That's related to a cellular structure in the center of our cells. But this is something else. It's a perception of a different, because a higher dimension, let's say 4D and 5D, would be a different direction to travel. It would be a different way for us to travel because that's what the dimension is. So what I'm saying is that
You're talking about the line and the way that point and the line that is created.
yes,
And you said something about that it goes up, it goes down, this thing going down that line, and also in the other direction, there's thing going down.
uh-huh.
And that's when I had the vision of the Jacob ladder and the DNA.
Yeah, because it's two line, it's a stairway with ascending and
The
descending.
stairways, and when you talked about
It's
the
possible that our DNA in 4D, 5D looks completely different. I know when I see my DNA as an ascended DNA, it looks like a star. It doesn't look like an XY chromosomes.
Mhm.
It looks like a star to me, like an exploding star. So there are multiple direction and axes in it.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, please. All these dimensions having different capacities for direction, additional capacities, do they exist in the same space?
They
And
exist
is it
on top? Yes.
perception? Is it our perception, our observation of them, like the wave and the particle experiments, that changes what we think of our directional dimension, and only when we relinquish the need to observe that they become visible?
Yes. Yes, Janice. In a broad sense, yes. In other words, what I'm saying is that the waves and the particle in this double slit experiment, as we can perceive the wave or the particle and all that, we are completely wired to either see particle or waves. I'm saying that both the particle and the wave are a reflection of an other 4 and 5D object that we cannot even see at this point because we have limited our perception to only the 3D reality.
And that reminds me of what you said about the Native Americans could not see the ships coming toward the shore because they had never seen it before and weren't expecting it and didn't know how to identify it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. And the shamans were standing on the seashore for several days looking. You knew the water formation was different, and eventually they had never seen a canoe that was that big. And eventually when he saw it, and he said, there's a big canoe and all of the rest of the tribe saw it.
Uh-huh.
And the reason
So,
I'm, go ahead, I'm sorry.
pardon me.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So is it all existing in the same space, or is it stacked like Marjorie said, like a ladder?
Okay, it's not really a ladder. I don't know what form it takes. I'm going to explain a little bit more in a second. Because it's not directional, the way we're thinking is directional. It's actually a space-time continuum. It's very different than what we think it is.
Yes.
Okay. As a matter of fact, the best way to explain this is to say, for example, because mathematicians have calculated all the way up to the 12th dimension. There's more than that, but they've calculated all the way. They have math to prove it. Einstein, in his theory of relativity, was talking about the fourth dimension as being space-time. What does it mean by space-time? It means that when you want to travel to your neighbor, when you have expanded in your perception into 4D, for example, you don't need to use the door. You walk right through the wall. Because space and time no longer limit you. Moreover, if you have an issue, for example, you think you're going to be late, you can go back in time or forward because everything is looped together. Okay, let me describe it by going to quantum physics. In quantum physics, there is a theory that they call the superposition. It turns out that an object, let's say, for example, an electron, exists everywhere in the universe at the same time. You and I exist everywhere in the universe at the same time. To explain the space factor, scientists right now, and by the way, if an electron in one section of the universe is changed, that same electron where it shows up in the other side of the universe will be excited equally because they're entangled together. And one moment, scientists have done that research. In one moment, this is why they also think that teleportation, as in Star Trek, is possible. Because one moment, the electron in one side, and they've done experiments where they've been able to teleport the electron that way. One moment, the electron on one side is because the electron is a particle. So one moment the electron is there, the next moment it flashes in a different coordinate and it goes somewhere else. They've done it between the Earth and the Moon. In the experiments, I think it was the Chinese who did that experiment with their own space station. And the same electron shows up like in an instant. Now, I want you to understand what I'm saying. This understanding came to me in a horrible movie that I watched on Amazon Prime. And there was a reason why Spirit guided me to it. It was about alien, blah, 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 space travel, speed of light, and travel, how long it would take you to go from one place to another. And you would get old by the time you get there, blah, 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 and all of that. And the alien who was on Earth described to the scientist something else, guided him to the realization that all you needed to do, like in the quantum entanglement, a quantum superposition, is to understand the destination location. And if you can understand the destination location and what it feels and is like at the destination, you need to change your unconscious tendency that locks you where you are and shift it to where you want to go. And in an instant, it doesn't matter the distance, you're there. There is no wormhole, there's none of that. It's like this. That's the reason why the UFOs that we're seeing can travel from one moment there, the next moment, they're gone. They've mastered this. This is one of the ability of mastering 4D and 5D and beyond. It's a connection to space-time. Again, it's a travel thing. It's a direction of travel.
Hmm. Hmm. And do people in physical incarnations only experience this, or non-physical as well?
Well, right now, if we can increase our awareness, this is why I'm guiding you into this. We're going to do a meditation connected to this, is that I'm trying to guide you into going into the white space and see if we can, if your already existing self that's already in 4D, 5D can teach you how to find the coordinate for the 5D and the 4D.
Hmm. Hmm.
It already knows it. And you're still everywhere in the universe, in every dimension. The same way we found all of those higher virtues, teach me those higher dimensions.
It's like the Rupert Sheldrake experiment of the 100th monkey.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So that interconnectedness, once there is enough impetus and
When
teaching
there's a
one.
critical mass, yeah, everybody will get it.
Uh-huh. Oh, I like that. Hmm.
I know this is some advanced stuff. I get it, okay? But remember, the galactic equator crossing is less than 10 years away. More like 7 years. 6 to 7 years. So because of this, we need to move faster. We have to up our game about everything. That's why my book, by the way, the book is coming very fast. I'm already on chapter 13. And there are 16 chapters. I have 3 more chapters to write and I'm done. And I'm going to publish that book and also all of the prayers in one collection as a separate book. That practice of sitting in silence is key. Initially, no agenda. You don't have to ask anything. You just want to sit and allow your body to acclimate to the expansion. And you need to release your attachment to everything. Your identity, your connection to your home, your house, your pet, your family. Release everything. Let go of everything. Surrender everything. Your fears, your what's good, what's not good. Release everything. Your ego, you have to release everything. And the emptiness will show up. And once it's there, then you're going to have to acclimate yourself. I've already done the work for you because it took me years to figure out. Initially, I didn't know what I was feeling when I went in there. It took me months, if not almost a year, to realize, oh my God, there are no thoughts. It took me several other months to realize I am in complete stillness. And all that I am at rest. I have no burden when I'm in there. All that time and space disappear. So if you can travel anywhere in the universe because you know the coordinate, you can also travel in any time and space. Because time and space are entangled together. That's why you can move through wall, because you can change the coordinate through any space, to anything. Any other questions or comments? And the other benefit as well is that when you're in there, not only do I hear, if somebody in my circle of influence is in crisis, I can hear their, again, like Kanye, I can hear them, I can see their problem, and I have advice. The field gives me advice on what they should be doing, how to help them in the home. I've had so many of these experiences where I've called people and tell them, you need to do X, Y, Z. The next morning, they call me back and say, oh my God, I can't believe you saved my life again. So the idea is for us to, if you can allow yourself to go into that space, to surrender, it's a matter of letting go. And go into, in the Catholic Church, they call this, well, in the Christian church in here, they call this the rest of the Holy Spirit. And when you're in that stillness, in that whiteness, and you can rest in there, then you can begin to connect to heart much more, because now you have to acclimate, because this, your sensory perception that were completely connected to the 3D, you have to surrender them too. You have to let them go. And you have to open yourself up to whatever else shows up as an emerging landscape, into 4D, 5D, as whatever it may want to show you. Any questions, any comments? Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other, and notice what you noticed. And the guardian alliance of light approach you, offering to give you their shields of light and protection and a band of neutrality. If you are ready to accept this gift at this time, let the energy of the first guardian enter from the core of the earth, counter-rotating, passing through the bottom of your feet, moving through you, exiting outside of your head, into source, and creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. As the center of the donut at the top of your head expands, creating a space, the axis above you extends higher, attracting the energy of the second guardian, cascading down while rotating clockwise, dropping into your core, passing through you, moving through the bottom of your feet into the core of the earth, and creating a torsion field of neutrality all around you. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and as the center of the donut creates a space, It attracts the energy of the third guardian, counter-rotating from the core of the earth, moving through your core, passing through you, exiting outside of your head and going into source and creating all around you your torsion field of neutrality. As the axis at the torsion field at the top of your head axis extends, it attracts the energy of the fourth guardian. As it cascades down, the center of the donut opens, moving through you and dropping into the core of the earth while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts now the energy of the fifth guardian, counter-rotating, coming in from the core of the earth. As the center of the donut opens up, it moves through your core, passing through you, exiting outside of your head and going into source and creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts now the energy of the sixth guardian. As it descends, rotating clockwise, the center of the donut opens up, and it moves into that space, passing through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet and grounding into the core of the earth. Creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts now the energy of the seventh guardian, coming in from the core of the earth and counter-rotating. As the center of the donut opens up, it moves into that space, spinning, passing through the core, your core, exiting us and going into source and creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts now the energy of the eighth guardian, coming down as it rotates clockwise, and the center of the donut opens up, and this axis and guardian moves through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet and into the core of the earth, and creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts now the energy of the night guardian, counter-rotating, coming in from the core of the earth as the center of the donut expands. It moves into that space, counter-rotating, passing to the bottom of your feet, going, exiting at the top of your head, and going into source, creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts now the energy of the tenth guardian, cascading down from source as the center of the donut opens up, rotating clockwise, passing through your top of your head, exiting at the bottom of your feet, and dropping into the core of the earth, while creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts now the energy of the 11th guardian, coming in from the core of the earth and counter-rotating. As the center of the donut opens up, it moves into that space while rotating counterclockwise, exiting at the outside of your head, going into source and creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts down the energy of the 12th guardian, cascading down while rotating clockwise as the center of the donut opens up, allowing this axis and this guardian to move through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet and going into the core of the earth while creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. Observe the 12 counter-rotating axes that are spinning in your core. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. What kind of information, insights, and breakthrough that your inner intelligence and the blessed field would like to share with you. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. If I were in thought in 4D, if I existed in the fourth dimension, what would I feel? What would I perceive? What would I understand and know? What kind of expansion and breakthrough does my fourth dimensional self want to share with me? If I existed in 5D, in the fifth dimension, what would I perceive? What would I know? What would I understand? Let my already existing fifth dimensional self teach me the expansion, the knowing, and the breakthrough that it knows. If I were in 5D, what would it feel like to me? Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. Pure. Having trouble
Thank
coming up with this one, but I'll stay with it for after we close the class.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Pierre. I needed this peace today. It's
Uh,
been a very tough day.
yes, pretty. Yes, I know. Uh, I want to thank all of you for joining me today. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Sending you my deepest love. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you next Sunday. Blessings.
I was
Thank you.
dancing the tango at the end.
Say that again.
I was dancing the tango at the end.
Okay.
Go
All
figure.
right. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.